Hello there, folks. JT Viper here, and I'm bringing you a short, prepared but unscripted video in regards to the recent escalation in political violence in the UK. Now, some of you will probably not understand what I'm talking about at first glance, but when I start to explain this, I think it's going to become much more clear. What I am referring to is the escalation from acts of intimidation where battery was not committed, up through throwing things like fish, eggs, and milkshakes at various political candidates and political commentators, all the way up to what has recently transpired in Oldham, Oldham in the UK, where a number of agitators from the Muslim Defense League showed up and began throwing rocks and other items at demonstrators. Now, the demonstrators were there lawfully. This was Tommy Robinson and his group, and he is campaigning as an independent for an MEP slot for the European Parliament elections. And he has every right to do so. The people who showed up, this Muslim Defense League, did not have the right, although for some reason they had a police escort, to intimidate and assault, or I should say batter, legally speaking, Tommy Robinson, his supporters, people he's had with them, such as hired security and that sort of thing. They don't have the right to do this. Now, some might scoff at the concept of broken windows policing, but that's very much what I'm suggesting we take in this instance. I suggest that we take a broken windows policing approach to political violence. Now, some people will say, oh, it's just an egg. Oh, it's just a milkshake. Oh, it's just fish. No one's really hurt by any of these things, are they? No one's really given cause for personal concern. Well, I'd say that you're wrong. Now, in my years, I've had one or two egging incidents perpetrated against myself and against those close to me. The most notable one that sticks out to me was when an ex of mine and I were, well, then girlfriend and I, were walking down the street and somebody threw an egg from a car. Now, as you can imagine, it's relatively difficult to get a proper wind up from within a car, so it's much more of a lob and letting the car's velocity do it for you, do the work of the actual throw. The egg hit my girlfriend on the back of her leg, on her calf, left quite a bruise. She was in quite some pain, never caught the people who did it, sped off down the street. When people say, well, it's just an egg, people don't seem to realize that eggs are relatively hefty and resilient items, especially when chucked at somebody. There is an instant as that eggshell begins to crack. Everyone goes, oh, walking on eggshells as if it's, super brittle. Well, yes, once they've been cracked open and they're all in their scattered pieces, there's not a lot of integrity to them. But when it's still as an egg, you'll find that they can actually hold up quite a bit of weight due to their shape and the way that the egg is structured. These hurt. These do cause a decent amount of pain, and if you hit somebody in the right spot with this, you can do some damage. Hit them in the head, in the eye. It's definitely not a pleasant experience. Now the kippers, the little, maybe one hand long fish that were thrown at Sargon, Carl Benjamin. I don't know if that was in Totnes or if it was in another campaign stop. But nonetheless, you don't know, as ridiculous as this might sound, you don't know if somebody has an allergy to the food item that you are throwing on them. You don't know if you're going to hit this person in the eye. You don't know what's going to happen except the fact that you're going to throw something unlawfully at somebody because they haven't consented to what you're about to do. Now, I'm sure you can all hear my cat going nuts in the next room. He wants to be let out through a door. I'm not stopping this for him. He can just deal with it. Now we move on to the milkshakes. People go, well, it's just a milkshake. Well, they go, well, it's a milkshake. It's not violent. It's not going to hurt anybody. A young boy died in the UK with the whole cheese flinging fad that happened there. People were tossing cheese on their cats and their dogs and their friends and that kind of thing. Another student walked up to him at school and tossed a slice of cheese at him. He had a severe allergic reaction and died. Now, when you go up and assault somebody, or I should say when you batter somebody by throwing an object onto them, you don't know if they have an allergy. You don't know if they could require hospitalization for what you've just done, but you accept that possibility when you batter them. Now, why have I outlined this? Why is this also serious? Well, if this had been stopped when it was the first milkshake, if this had been stopped at the first egg, you would not be likely to have seen the same escalation to where individuals like those from the Muslim Defense League think it's appropriate to hurl rocks at these individuals. This is a relatively reasonable, given the context, escalation in force being used against political candidates. It's a milkshake being poured on somebody. Okay, well, that's not extremely invasive. You're just pouring it onto them. It's almost a passive act. You get rained on worse than that. Okay, then it's breaking an egg over somebody's head. Well, that's okay. Now we're getting into personal physical contact. You have to actually hit them with your hand to smack the egg on them. Okay, it's a harder substance being hit with. And then of course the being hurled at people. Okay, that's got a little more force to it as well. All right, so we've thrown liquids on them. We've thrown very viscous, non-viscous. We've thrown very thick and very liquids with a lot of body to them at people. And then we're cracking eggs on them. We're throwing eggs at them. Okay, well the egg is hard, kind of weighty and round. Let's throw a rock next, because apparently none of the stuff that's happened before is punishable. So let's see what boundary at which boundary we get stopped. If this had been stopped with some broken windows style policing, I don't think we'd have seen this type of escalation. We wouldn't now see major corporations like Burger King dog whistling to the folks who are throwing these milkshakes, going, "Oh, well, we've got them on sale in Scotland this week. Oh yeah, they're out there. Go have fun." Oh, we don't condone violence. Bullshit. Burger King, your PR person knew exactly what they were saying when they posted that. I would love to believe that it was thoughtlessness, not malice. But there are simply too many converging points to accept that. Now, there are a lot of people speaking out against the individuals doing this, rightfully so. But the vast majority of them are underselling this issue. Now, I'll include links to my sources here, but I will be citing the Crown Prosecution Service's website. This is a UK government body, and I'll be citing their reference material on common assault, so assault and battery, as well as terrorism. And you'll see why in a minute. Common assault. Here we are. An assault is committed when a person intentionally or recklessly causes another to apprehend the immediate infliction of unlawful force. A battery is committed when a person intentionally or recklessly applies unlawful force to another. Where there is a battery, the defendant should be charged with assault by beating. the people who are throwing these objects at and hitting with these objects, and the people who are attacking the MEP candidates and others in this fashion are committing assaults and batteries. For example, where somebody has an item thrown at them, sees this object thrown at them, has to recognize and sense the impending impact of this unlawful force, but the actual object misses them, sails by, hits somebody else, or hits nothing at all of any actual importance, an assault has been committed against that person who wasn't hit. In instances where they were struck by it, a battery was committed. And in instances where they both saw it coming and were hit by it, both an assault and a battery have been committed against that individual by the Crown Prosecution Service's own standard. Now, why did I bring up terrorism? Well, it's rather simple. Terrorism, per the CPS, is the use or threat of unlawful action. I've added the unlawful there because I believe that is implied as just action in general to achieve the goals laid out after this point would simply be not terrorism. Be something you'd be allowed to do. Voting in that case could be influencing an international government organization. But anyway, you'll hear me out here. Hear me out. Terrorism is the use or threat of unlawful action both in and outside of the UK, designed to influence any international government organization or to intimidate the public. It must also be for the purpose of advancing a political, religious, racial, or ideological cause. Examples include, but I should add are not limited to, serious violence against a person or damage to property, endangering a person's life other than that of the person committing the action, creating a serious risk to the health or safety of the public or a section of the public, action designed to seriously interfere with or seriously to disrupt an electronic system. It is important to note that in order to be convicted of a terrorism offense, a person doesn't actually have to commit what would be considered a terrorist attack. Planning, assisting, and even collecting information on how to commit terrorist attacks are all crimes under British terrorism legislation. So, the threat or use of unlawful action within or without the UK aimed at influencing an international government organization or to intimidate the public for the purpose of advancing a political, religious, racial, or ideological cause. These are the criteria required for deeming something to be terrorism. Now, let's look at the acts being committed against people like Carl Benjamin and Tommy Robinson. Are these acts unlawful? Yes, they already classify as being assaults or batteries, or in some cases both. This is the unlawful use of force. Both in and outside of the UK. Well, of course, that's encompassing everything that happens anywhere, whether it's in or out of a country. Designed to influence any international government organization or to intimidate the public. Well, these incidents are designed to intimidate and discourage the political actors against whom they're committed, and those actors are members of the public. For the purpose of advancing a political, religious, racial, or ideological cause. Well, it was the Muslim Defense League throwing rocks at Tommy Robinson, and all of the people who've been throwing milkshakes and fish and eggs and all the rest of it, targeting politicians, have been doing so to either advance their own political policy or to discourage political action. That means you have a political, religious, racial, or ideological cause. So, would you be correct in calling these people milkshake terrorists? I'd say so, and by their own wording, so should the CPS. So, if you're squaring off against someone online who believes this is perfectly acceptable, you might want to hand them the relevant links to the Crown Prosecution Service's website, especially their references on assault, battery, and what constitutes terrorism. Now, people will chuckle. I've had plenty of people laugh. Oh, terrorism, lol. You can't possibly be serious. I go, no, I'm deadly serious. These actions are people assaulting and battering others in order to pursue a political goal. They're committing crimes to intimidate people and stop them from committing lawful political action. And I think they need to be stopped. And I think the first person who gets nicked on this and gets brought up on terrorism charges will put a chilling effect on all of the other people who would otherwise commit these offenses. Especially when these are being committed in a country like Great Britain, where they have some of the highest surveillance equipment per any given area values anywhere in the Western world. London, I believe, has one of the highest surveillance cameras per capita of anywhere in the Western world. So, the next time somebody gets up your ass online about this and wants to say that they're doing nothing wrong, show them these references, show them this video, and to Sargon and Tommy, consider speaking to the Crown Prosecution Service and local police and providing them with these references, because at the end of the day, they are the ones who, even if they're not going to act based on your concerns, you need to be able to show that they ought to have known. Now, of course, being the police, they should know this anyway. But if you've provided them with the information and they still decline to do nothing, you've made yourself a stronger case than just assuming that they know that this is what they should be acting on and why. In any event, this has been JT Viper. Just one more video for the pile. And to Sargon and Tommy and to all of the UKIP candidates, best of luck.